Hi, good afternoon or good morning to everyone that's joined us on our webinar today, which is the Discoveries and Innovations with Summer Learning. So thank you so much for joining us. So before we get started, I'd love to thank you all for putting your information on the side chat bar, but I'd love to start with a poll. So we'd love to see who's on the call today. We'd love to know what your role is in your state. So if you look on the screen, you will see a poll. All you have to do is to click on one of the selections for us to see what your role is in your state specifically. And so we'll have this just for a couple minutes just to start off the conversation. And so it looks like we have a lot of others on the call, which is really interesting. I'd love to know who those others are. We have a lot of folks from child care resource and referral groups, which is really helpful. Interesting. We have a lot of others. Well, we're glad to have everyone on the call today. So we'll keep it going for maybe another 30 seconds or so. Actually, it looks like, oh, we have more others on the call, which is great. Fantastic. I think that actually may have captured most of our audience. So as you'll see, we have a good array of folks on the call. Most are others. But we have a really good group of folks on the call today to learn more about innovations and discoveries in summer learning. So thank you, Preeta. You can close that poll. And so next, I wanted just to go over kind of what we're going to do today. So first, I want to tell you about our presenters. Let me see if I can get to that one. Great. And so again, my name is Monica Logan, and I am with the National Center on Afterschool and Summer Learning, Summer Enrichment. I also have my colleague on from NCASE, Susan O'Connor. We also are extremely excited today to have Sheely Mock from Schools Out Washington and Selena Levy from the California School Aids Consortium. So the goal today is for participants to explore the promise of summer learning and discuss action steps they may take to improve quality, workforce development, and policies to help close the current opportunity gap. So our agenda today, we have about an hour to be with you. Our agenda is pretty full. We have time for a really good dynamic between hearing from states and hearing from you all as well. And so we'll start with an overview of summer learning research around quality and systems. We'll have a great warm-up activity. We'll have presentations on promising practices, some group discussions, and closing. I want to also share that if you all have questions during the presentation at any time, please feel free to put them in the chat box on the left, and we'll be looking at it throughout to make sure that we're getting to your questions. And so I want to start at the beginning of the conversation around summer learning research. Many of you may be familiar with this research, that we know that summer is a time when kids lose typically 2 months of mathematical skills over the summer, and this is particularly impactful for low-income students who often lose 2 or 3 months of reading. We also know that when teachers come back to start the school year, they have to spend at least 3 weeks reteaching lessons just to start the school year. We also know that in 2006, when a study was completed, that 1 in 7 youth eligible for the summer food service program had received those meals during the school year. So basically, 2/3 of kids that were receiving free and reduced lunch meals during the school year did not have that same access during the summertime. The great news we know, though, is that kids that attend programs regularly experience gains in math and reading. And so that's why we're here today, and we appreciate your time. So we also know that there is a lot of evidence and data around the importance of summer learning, the importance of kids being in high-quality programs, but most important for building resilience for young people. These are protective factors that will last well beyond what happens to them in the summer. And so a definition of resilience is the ability to respond positively to adverse stresses or challenges. Resiliency is a process we can actually teach young people. And so again, ways that programs or systems or states can help build protective factors are having unstructured play and time to explore, limited performance pressures, and giving kids and youth time to reflect and interact through mindfulness practice with breathing, listening, and paying attention to their emotions as well. And so to move forward, I want to actually pass the presentation over to my colleague, Susan O'Connor. Susan?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to be on this call as a way of putting a spotlight on National Summer Learning Day, which is tomorrow. And as we do that, we want to just check in with you with another poll. This poll has two basic questions. As you look at your screen, you'll see that there is a question on how summer enrichment is prioritized in your state, and then two, how familiar your state is with the summer learning research that Monica just shared. So you're going to pick one choice for question 1 and one choice for question 2. And let's see what comes up. Okay, well, so far it is looking very good in that people are responding that when it comes to summer as an important priority in our state, we're getting there. This is very encouraging, the 71% response on question 1. And then a little bit lower on when it comes to being familiar with the summer learning research and best practices, we're getting there, comes in at 42%. With only 14% saying they're not familiar at all with the summer learning research. But we really encourage all of you to get this information out there in your state, and even tomorrow there may be a way, if you tweet or blog, there may be a way to get some information out on Summer Learning Day. Thanks, Katari. Thanks, Preeti. I'm ready to move over to the next slide. So I want to take just a moment to talk about the keys to quality for summer. Along with the well-documented research about why summer learning loss matters that Monica just shared, there's really a wonderful body of data pertaining to the keys to providing high-quality summer learning opportunities. And these are going to sound very familiar, really, for school age year-round. But there are some specific and unique things to think about for summer. They are as follows: to hire highly qualified and specially trained staff and combine that with early planning to engage partners in clearly delineated roles. And I would say that one thing that is different here that we always need to keep in mind is that often summer programs, because they move from being 3-hour after-school programs to full-day and very long summer days, we often have from 30 to 50% new staff, and many of those new staff are not seasoned staff. It may be their very first professional job with children, and so we really need to focus a lot on providing training and technical assistance to make sure that they can meet the promise of summer as well as possible. The National Summer Learning Association suggests an early planning start, starting in January. And I think that that's really important. I know the first year I ran summer programs, we started planning in April. Biggest lesson learned from my staff was that was too late. And we moved it up to, we actually started right on January 1st to start planning for summer, which made a huge difference. Smaller class sizes matter a lot. How much dosage there is for the summer program is very important to producing outcomes. And the research has found that operating for at least 5 weeks with at least 3 to 4 hours of academics per day matters. And also the amount of attendance for participants matters a great deal. And to get to that high level of student attendance, it's important to be very engaged with families so that they know the importance of summer. They know the summer research so that they can make sure that their children get to the program and continue. And also, it's wonderful if the children can have a multi-year experience. We need to make strategic use of partnerships. There is so much that can happen out in the community that can really enrich our summer programs, from partnering with libraries, with the Audubon Society, with other community agencies. It really gives older kids especially a chance to get out in the community because you have these full, wonderful days to work with. Using an evidence-based curriculum and carefully planned enrichment activities that can really tap children's engagement and learning and build their background knowledge. So those are the keys to quality. Now let's consider what leadership you can provide on policy and systems development. You may want to start by identifying gaps in access. A lot of states are mapping out where programs exist with a focus on what access families with low income have to high quality opportunities as a way to understand where there is a problem with access that is now being called a child care desert. So it's important to be sure to include summer programs in this effort because a lot of times families will say it is hard to find a high-quality summer program that is accessible, that is in their neighborhood, that is affordable. And so it's important to take a look at cost. A RAND report indicates that summer can cost between $1,100 and $2,800 just for the summer. And you can imagine that if a family doesn't have access to subsidized slots or sliding fee scale slots, that would be a lot of money, and to have multiple siblings in a family makes it even more complicated. It's important to explore ways that the Child Care Development Block Grant contracts and grants can increase access, as mentioned in the summer brief, which is going to be listed on our resources list, which you'll see at the end. And in addition, the Every Student Succeeds Act assures investments in summer learning. United Way's private foundations are also often very interested in supporting summer programming. So we can definitely strengthen our summer programs through affordability, through partnerships, and through increased awareness about the importance of summer learning. So those are some of the things that you can do at the systems level to make a difference. I want to take a moment to talk about summer programs and licensing. As many of you probably know, license-exempt providers serving Child Care Development Fund children must now meet CCDF health and safety requirements and have an annual inspection. So summer learning programs might be licensed by CCDF or perhaps by a different agency. In some states, in my state, for example, a lot of times programs shift over to be licensed by the Department of Public Health or perhaps by the Department of Public Recreation. But many programs are exempt, especially those run by schools, run by recreation departments, those that are youth development clubs, those that are faith-based. And so if we're going to make sure to build on summer access, we're going to need to provide supports so we can provide license-exempt summer programs a way to meet the CCDF requirements and be eligible for those subsidized slots. So I'm wondering, I'm just going to give you a moment to type into the chat bar if any of you have been working specifically on what supports to provide summer exempt programs so that they can meet the requirements to receive CCDF subsidies. I'm just going to give you a moment to type into the chat bar now. While people are typing, if we get any feedback on that, I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about what we know about summer learning in tribal communities. In preparing for this workshop, we had a chance to talk with Barbara Buckshot-Jock, who works with the National Center on Tribal Early Childhood Development, and we asked her, what's the level of awareness in tribal communities about summer learning loss and about the current picture on access and quality, and here's what she shared with us. She said the awareness about summer learning loss in the tribal communities is high, and that they're typically working to build partnerships for both after-school and summer programs with school-age providers like the Boys and Girls Clubs, with CCDF-funded agencies, with schools, and that their programs are often funded through CCDF or 21st Century Community Learning Center funds, but there is this other source of funds that is available for tribal communities called Johnson O'Malley funds. This is a 1934 bill to subsidize education, medical, and other services for tribal communities for children ages 3 to 12. And I want to just share with you a bit of an example from one of the tribal communities from the Choctaw Nation. The Choctaw Nation is in Oklahoma. It covers about 11,000 square miles in southeastern Oklahoma. And we had the chance to meet with the two leaders from the program who were able to share their wonderful model. They have built a partnership over the last few years with 87 school districts within the Choctaw Nation. And they've targeted children who are finishing kindergarten and third grade, who are in need of reading and math intervention. They place a specific focus on reading elements of phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, comprehension, and fluency. They also, and this is, I think, a really wonderful model, they provide a professional learning conference for 800 teachers each summer to get them ready for the summer. And I think this type of support from an intermediary who can really pool training resources is a wonderful model and something you may want to consider for your state, territory, or tribal systems. In addition, and very impressively, the Choctaw Nation program has a K-12 data integration solution that captures and stores not only school year data longitudinally, but after school and summer data in those 87 school districts. So they're developing this longitudinal and very broad picture of where children are, what they're doing, and how they're faring in terms of various outcomes. So at this time, I'm happy to turn things over to Selena Levy from California, who's going to share out a lot of wonderful work that's happening in California. Selena?
Thank you, and thank you everyone for being on the call. I know at CalSAC and for me personally, we're always so excited to share about summer and really continuing to advocate and promote the importance around summer, and especially on a national level. So what we wanted to share was kind of the unique approach that California has taken over the last, I guess, 7 years. And that started primarily through the Summer Matters campaign and through funding through the Packard Foundation. And I appreciated hearing folks in the beginning share that, for the most part, states are getting there with summer, and states are getting there with research. And I think there was a similar thinking 7 years ago in California around how do we really continue to make sure that summer programs and the value of summer programs is elevated at the level of the school day and at the same level as in discussions in the after-school field, because of the research that was shared earlier around the importance of summer. And so the need to continue to push the state and California in that direction. The Packard Foundation collaborated with many, many agencies throughout the state, both on a local and statewide level, to ensure that there was this network of organizations who were using varying strategies to promote summer learning and with the goal of increasing access and quality of summer learning opportunities that support year-round learning. So this is what the Summer Matters campaign was their goal. And again, it was a collaboration of multiple organizations in an effort to elevate summer learning in the state. And so the three key strategies that were implemented was first around program quality, and that was really focused on establishing tools to help define and support quality in summer learning. And what came out of that is this assessment tool called the QUIC CASP, or the QUIC CASP stands for the Comprehensive Assessment of Summer Programs. And that assessment tool was developed in partnership with the National Summer Learning Association. And this assessment tool is a lighter touch self-assessment tool for programs that may not be ready for what the National Summer Learning Association also has, which is the full CASP assessment. So instead of 80 indicators of a high-quality summer program, which is what the CASP is, the QUIC CASP is 36. And these 36 indicators were identified as crucial to improving summer program quality, and therefore priority areas for planning and quality improvement. So this was a huge piece of ensuring that not only do programs have the tools to identify what program quality looks like, but the technical assistance providers, so I see that there's some TA providers who are on the call, can really try to identify and target their support and their TA. So this tool, I think that Preeti mentioned, is here to download. It's a very easy to use tool that anyone can complete, and this is something that really drives, or this tool really drives what supports that programs may need to continue to drive towards quality. The other strategy was the technical assistance and system building. So the technical assistance I kind of alluded to, but it was really creating a statewide system of providers with summer learning expertise. So one of our partners in the project, ASAP Connect, took the lead and trained other folks in the field to be summer TA providers. So they were providing technical assistance specific to summer, both on a local and statewide level. And I'll share more about how CalSAC was able to use our network model to support that work. And then the last piece and the last strategy was around stakeholder engagement and policy change. And so this was really targeting increasing access to funding, and I know that was mentioned a couple times already, but funding is an important piece of providing summer programs to young people throughout the state and then in your programs as well. And so this was done through creating policy amendments to the state funding that programs receive, the after-school enrichment and safety funding that California has, as well as policy amendments to the 21st century language as well. And it is really also around increasing the number of champions for summer learning and needing to pull in superintendents and district-level staff to advocate for the value of summer programs so that more funding can come in and more programs can be created on a local level. So those are the 3 strategies that were put in place over the last 7 years. The project is now ending, and I've included a link to the full Packard report as well as to the Summer Matters website that has a full list of resources, including the information on the quick CASP and how to use it. And so definitely would encourage, especially the TA providers who are on the call, to take a look at it if you haven't already. And then for those who are not TA providers, again, this is a tool that you can easily use for your own program. Since the program or the Packard funding has now sunsetted, we are now transitioning and continuing the work with the California Summer Matters Network, so continuing this network model, knowing that, again, a collaboration of organizations throughout the state is what's needed to elevate and continue to promote summer learning programs. CalSAC, our organization, is one of the 7 organizations that's really driving this network, and then we're also seeing this as an opportunity for leaders and summer champions to really determine what policies and what goals the network accomplishes this next year. Specific to CalSAC and what we offered and how we were a part of this network and collaboration. So our organization, for those who may not be familiar, we are a statewide intermediary here in California, and our mission is really to build an out-of-school time workforce that is filled with strong mentors and highly skilled practitioners who reflect the communities they serve. So we offer training resources, leadership development opportunities, and we also invest in advocacy. And so our summer work really fell in this training bucket of our programs. And so we had a specific Summer TA Network project. We trained 19 of our trainers to be summer TA providers. So that connected to the strategy around the Packard and the Summer Matters campaign around increasing TA providers and system building throughout the state. We enrolled agencies in the project. They received 6 hours of summer-specific training, and then they also received an additional 14 hours of technical assistance, really focused on improving the quality of their program, again, based on the quick CASP results. So it was really developing the capacity of the staff who are running summer programs to not only understand the value of summer programs, but to equip them with the competencies and skills to assess and create a quality improvement plan for next summer. And again, this is a collaboration between CalSAC, our partners at ASAP Connect, the Summer Matters campaign, and the National Summer Learning Association. We developed online learning in addition to the on-site training and other tools to share with the field. So what I wanted to highlight were 2 programs who participated in this project and what it would look like, and I think what we want to offer for you all to think about for programs in your states as you're thinking about how to not only promote summer learning programs, but to strengthen the quality of the summer learning programs that you support. And so we had 2 agencies enroll in the program at varying points. One was an agency called Forward a Summer Academy. They're a program in the Bay Area, so not too far from where our offices are. And they offered a school year program, but they were completely new to offering summer learning programs to students. They tried on they tried on the summer program for the first time and realized that they could not replicate and just do what they did during the school year in the summer. And so they came to us really trying to better understand what to offer their youth in summer program and more resources that they needed to run a high-quality summer program. So they utilized our Summer TA Network training and the technical assistance provided by our trainers. And based on the quick CASP results, our trainers focused their technical assistance on getting stakeholder input. So that's one of the indicators of a high-quality summer learning program, and then also identifying resources for staff development. And so the TA provider that was assigned to work with the agency really honed in on these two indicators for their 14 hours of technical assistance. Again, because there's so many indicators, we can't expect a program to try to improve in all of them. It's really honing in on the 2 or 3 they want to focus on this summer, and then maybe next summer they tackle the next couple. So that was Forward Academy. The other academy that we had, or the other agency we had enrolled, was the Sacramento Food Bank and Family Services, so up in northern part of California, the capital. They offer a year-round programming for free for families in the Sacramento area. And they had implemented summer learning programs in the past, and then they enrolled in the Summer TA Network project to really strengthen the academic activities in their program. So they understood the need for, fun, engaging activities and curriculum for young people, and wanting to make sure that they're also supporting that academic side as well. And really ensuring that the youth, just like I think what Monica had mentioned, continue to improve in their math and reading, or at least stay the same throughout the summer. So they enrolled in the project, and what was a little different about this agency is they not only utilized our Summer TA Network project, but they also utilized our on-site training as well. And again, that was based on the QuickCASP assessment tool and the results from the QuickCASP. So they identified that they needed to train their staff, and that was an area of improvement. And so they requested our foundational youth development modules. So we had our trainer facilitate a behavior guidance module, a module on building relationships, and a foundational one around professionalism. And so they completed these trainings. I believe it was in June, I think, when their staff training was, but they identified that this training would need to happen back in March. So I think Susan had mentioned around the planning timeline. I had heard at one part that summer starts in September. I'm not sure if that has since changed, but that ideally, as a program, you're identifying what your staff training and staff needs are come January, February, March, so that when you do hire your staff, the training is already in place. And that's typical of most summer programs that we see here in California, is that they request their trainings in April, May, and then the trainings are happening May and June. And then this agency also identified that they wanted to receive additional TA focus specifically on curriculum development. So our TA provider was helping research and find additional curriculum tools for their program to use. And so again, this is the model that CalSAC, and as a part of this larger Summer Matters campaign, was supporting on a statewide level. And so we had our agency completing this type of work, and there were other agencies throughout the state who were either providing more local, community-focused level support, in addition to other agencies like ours who were providing statewide support. And through that, California was able to elevate summer learning programs throughout the state, as was highlighted with the successes of the Summer Matters campaign, and we're continuing to try to move forward with the network model, seeing that the success of a collaboration of multiple organizations is what's needed to continue to move the needle and elevate summer learning programs and elevate high-quality summer learning programs here in California. So I think that is all I have to share with California. I'm going to move it over, or pass it over to Sheely, who's going to share more about what's going on in Washington. And then I think we'll have time after her piece to be able to answer any questions that you all may have, either specific to what I just shared or to what Sheely will be sharing. But I will now turn it over to Sheely. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Selena. All right, thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Sheely Mock, and I'm with Schools Out Washington. And you'll see that often I might say SOA. You see our logo in there. So if you hear SOA, that stands for Schools Out Washington. So I wanted to share first about our quality improvement system, and then we'll discuss examples of how we've been able to leverage this system to really support summer programming across the state. And so we really start with defining quality, and we have a couple core documents, including our Washington State Program Quality Standards, which does include 9 domains of quality, including a cultural competency and responsiveness domain. And then we also have individual core competencies for youth development professionals that we developed in partnership with the Department of Early Learning, and it includes standards or core competencies for all ages from after school age through young adults. Once we define quality, we then assess it. And so our primary assessment tools that we use are based on the Youth Program Quality Assessment tools developed by the David P. Weichert Center for Youth Program Quality. And so we started with the youth and school age assessment tools. We're now shifting into the social emotional learning PQA, or Program Quality Assessment. And in addition to our quality assessments, we have multiple levels of support. And so we recognize that across the state, it's not enough to just define quality or assess quality. We need to be able to provide resources. And so we have multiple professional development opportunities that are aligned to the assessments and to the quality standards, as well as a variety of coaching options. And so predominantly we use in-person coaching using a quality coaching framework from the Weichert Center. We've also been piloting a practice-based coaching framework that is the same framework used in the early learning quality rating and improvement system. And we've also been exploring the hybrids of using virtual coaching and video filming practice to support practices throughout the year. And all of this, when we combine it, our hopes are that when we focus on quality, we're really increasing youth engagement as well as youth participation. And so if young people are showing up, they're engaging in activities, they're learning new skills, they're working together, we're ultimately achieving our goal of improving youth outcomes, both social, emotional, and academic. And so I'm going to take a few moments. We're going to talk about some of the different ways that we've been able to leverage the system to support a number of summer efforts throughout the state. And the first one we're going to talk about is the Feed Your Brain Summer Project. And so because of this system, since 2001, we have been able to run this rural project that has helped summer programs, particularly in high-poverty rural communities throughout the state. And so SOA raises money to provide grants to these programs. We also build the programs around the free meals, summer meals program, so sites that are participating, that all children will have access to nutritious meals as well as enrichment activities that are ultimately linked to literacy. So tying back to what Monica said in the beginning, there's a big intentionality around literacy, and we also partner with, I believe it's Page Ahead, to provide books and literacy curriculum for the young people in these rural programs. Since 2001, we've served over 210 programs across the state, and I believe that's we've served over 400,000 meals and have benefited over 24,000 children since the beginning of that grant program. The next one I'll talk about is through our private partnerships and quality TA system, we were able to support a summer research project with Seattle Public School District to support their summer staircase program. So we were able to cross-train the district staff and teachers on quality practices. We even developed a shorthand of practices that teachers could easily take. Most of them were around warm welcome and building community, a couple of very simple reflection activities that teachers and staff supporting students during the Summer Staircase program could easily implement, and also conducted research. And what we were able to find using the Summer Learning Program Quality Assessment tool, as well as the district's assessments for math and literacy, was that we actually were able to see a big difference in higher quality programs, showed that students were actually making gains, particularly in math, and that they were sustaining their reading levels with a little bit of growth, but the biggest difference we saw was in the math scores, that in higher quality classrooms we were seeing increased gains in math for students. So it was a really exciting opportunity to partner with the district to focus on quality, and several of those summer programs, or summer school morning programs, also partnered with afternoon private or community-based organizations to provide full-day opportunities for learning. And so we also were able to assess the afternoons and be able to support program staff in continuing that, in continuing those enrichment opportunities for young people. The next one. So we've also, for the past 2 years, been a part of a partnership with the Department of Early Learning, the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, and the University of Washington to really look at how we can connect the early learning quality rating and improvement system with after-school and youth development and hopefully create an aligned process. And one of the biggest benefits that have, tangible benefits that have come out of this process so far was the opportunity to include school-age license programs and youth development at large programs in professional development opportunities that were a part of the early learning system. So we have the summer institutes that were originally just for early learning, and we were able to add a school-age and youth development track and offer subsidized training for professionals last summer and this summer as well. We're working on it for this summer. And then finally, our advocacy efforts. So a few of the things we've been working on is elevating the importance of summer, particularly with local cities. So one city we've been working with is the city of Seattle. And so we've used our co-conference partnership last year that we co-hosted our annual professional development conference with the National Summer Learning Association. And we were able to leverage that to build momentum around the importance of summer with our city officials. And our advocacy work resulted in investments for new summer slots for youth in the city, really this coming summer. And so our organization is also a part of the Mayor's Education Work Group that focuses on summer. And since no one in our state actually owns the summer space wholly, our organization serves as the out-of-school time intermediary, and so we really are that liaison and convener of partners to support those linkages and collaborations, particularly between expanded learning opportunity providers and school districts. So those are some of our big things. And you also see that there's a couple things to point out with the City of Seattle efforts is that Seattle actually has a unique 30-year-old local property tax on top of the school district levy, and that's one of the ways that we've been able to leverage additional support for youth programs in that it supports many kinds of programming for young people, including expanded learning opportunities. And the ELO side, and we use ELO as our phrase instead of out-of-school time, just to incorporate really that every opportunity outside the school day is a learning opportunity. But there's $20 million, approximately $20 million every year just for ELO opportunities. And this funding, in particular, has supported elementary and middle school summer programs. And so it's actually coming up for a vote again this fall. And then the sugar tax was proposed by the mayor, and it was passed by City Council in 2016. And so it mostly funds health-related programs, but there's actually about $300,000 allocated for ethnically based summer learning programs. And so right now, though, there is a statewide ballot measure this fall that is hoping to ban sugar tax-like measures. So we don't actually know if this sugar tax that City of Seattle has will be grandfathered in, or if it's actually going to get eliminated. And that effort is being led by the beverage and snack industries, but we're hoping that we're still able to continue getting funding or this additional funding for expanded learning opportunities. So those are some of the ways that we've been able to, again, leverage our quality improvement systems to really focus in on supports during the summer. We are, again, through King County, which is where Seattle is based, have additional supports through a Best Starts for Kids grant that is a multi-year grant that, again, we have 8 programs this summer that are getting supports to go through a summer learning program quality initiative, and then more programs will continue to, as they build capacity, will start offering summer programs next year and the following years. So with that, I think we will turn it over to questions, but I did want to also share, if you're interested in that study we did with Seattle Public Schools, we have our quality outcome study available, and it's actually listed on the Weichert Center website. The link is here as well and should be in the resource library. So I will turn it back over to my fellow presenters.
Thanks, Sheely. I think this is Selena from CalSAC. I saw a question pop up during my presentation or my section about where to find the modules and curriculum that I mentioned. And I appreciate the question. So although we are a California-based agency, we do offer training online for programs that's accessible for any out-of-school time and expanded learning program. And so I'd be happy to connect, and I can share the link in the chat box to our information around our e-learning, but all of our summer-specific courses, as well as our foundational youth development modules, and some of our English language learner curriculum is all available online. And so I'll put that link in the chat box for folks who are curious to access the e-learning modules for them or to share with programs in their state. And then the ASAP Connect, our partners who developed the TA framework and TA technical assistance model, I can also share their website for you all to explore the resources around providing technical assistance to summer programs. And I'll turn it over to Susan, I think, for any other questions that may be coming up.
Yes, and thanks so much for posting those 2 resources. And in addition, I just want to point people to the NCASE library. There are quite a few relevant resources on there. There are several articles about STEM for summer learning. There's also a report from the Wallace Foundation and RAND called The Effects of Volunteer Summer Learning Programs on Low-Income Urban Youth that will point you to the evidence-based curriculum that school districts used for that study. But in the meantime, we have time for questions. You can pose them for either Selena or Sheely. It might help to indicate who you want to ask, but post them in the chat bar and we'll be fielding them. Or perhaps you have questions for Monica or myself. So just put it right up onto the chat bar and we will be responding. I want to start by asking Jamie if you could indicate the modules that you're, a little more specifically about the modules you're looking for. Questions, anyone? It could be about training that the 2 states are providing or how they're approaching technical assistance. Could be about funding of summer programs. Okay, thanks, Jamie. So Selena posted what you were looking for. Wonderful. Hey, any other questions? Well, I'm going to go ahead and ask a question. I'd just like to have Sheila and Selene talk a little bit about technical assistance, who is providing that, and how you have trained them, and what kinds of challenges perhaps they are experiencing in their work.
Diana, this is Sheila. Would you like to go ahead and jump in first? I think you've done actually more work with TA than we have.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share. So CalSAC's model is really about developing the capacity of staff in programs and in the field. So I think even one of the goals that we mentioned around the call is thinking about workforce development. And so we tap into our trainer network, and our trainers are staff who work in programs themselves that we've trained to facilitate our modules to the field. And so we selected a handful of our trainers to be trained on providing TA and technical assistance, And so the link I shared to ASAP, our partner ASAP Connect, they were the ones who created the training and real framework around what it means to provide high-quality technical assistance to programs. So looking at the relationship building that you need to provide programs, as well as the actual skills. So are you coaching, mentoring? Are you brokering resources? Are you facilitating trainings? Are you facilitating a meeting? So different TA strategies that our providers need to utilize to support programs. And so they received training on how to do that and then went out into the field to provide that support to programs based, again, on the Quick CASP assessment results. I think that the challenges that we heard from our trainers is that oftentimes agencies don't know or can't communicate clearly what they really need or how they want somebody to support them. It may be a new thing like, oh, I have 14 hours of support. What do I do with that, right? And TA providers really needing to figure out how to coach that out of agencies. Again, the Quick CASP assessment tool is a great resource. There's other assessment tools I know that are out there as well that help start the conversation. But the TA framework that ASAP Connect developed is a really great resource to use for those who are TA providers on the call. And then again, for those who are program providers or delivering summer programs to youth, it's really utilizing the Quick CASP and then tapping into either your TA provider, TA contractor in your area to help find those resources and support, or it can be at least a starting point for you all to identify where you need to deepen your quality in your program. But that's how we built the capacity of others in the field to be the technical assistance providers. And then other agencies outside of ours also received similar training. So in total, there were 11 agencies, including ours, that were involved in providing technical assistance to summer programs.
Oh, thanks so much, Selena. That's an impressive partnership on that technical assistance. Thank you. Okay, we're going to spend the next 10 to 15 minutes with people having a chat. In a minute, you're going to see chat boxes come up, and you can make comments in any one of the 4 boxes that are up here. One is on quality improvement and program assessment. So, for example, I know Selena just mentioned the CASP, but that there are other assessment tools, and you may want to ask people what they're using, how that's gone, or you may want to talk about how your QRIS system incorporates summer. The second box is questions around increasing the supports for summer workforce. The third box is on how you're responding to summer challenges, on health, on safety, on licensing. And the fourth box is on how to strengthen summer learning through system building and policy efforts. So it is now about 5 minutes of 4, and I'm definitely going to let it go till at least 5 minutes after 4. If you have resources that you would like to share with other participants, please mention them. If you can, put the link right into the chat box. That said, I'm going to encourage people to just type away so that you can get questions answered, you can share resources. So I really like what's up in box number 1, people talking about strategic alliances and partnering with other agencies, and people may want to share some specific partnerships that have really worked well for them. That would be wonderful in that box. And I want to point out that Annette has asked a question, so people may have things to share with her. Are volunteers used to support programming, and what benefits or outcomes has this brought? And I'd love to hear more from Alicia on the workforce development programs, but also AmeriCorps. Are those staff working only in the summer, or are they working year-round?
So thank you, Susan, for your updates on the first 2 boxes. So for number 4, we're having an interesting conversation about ways to strengthen summer learning through systems building and policy efforts. And so Selena shared that Summer Learning Day is a great way to get folks to come out and see what's happening. It's so funny because before you know it, in the blink of an eye, summer is over. And so it's harder to even make the case to folks that they can't see it tangibly. And so if you're running programs now or about to, it might be a good opportunity to invite officials or others out to your programs to see what's happening. So thank you for that suggestion, Selena. Additionally, I would certainly say that, as we shared, site visits or inviting folks from state legislators or school boards are great opportunities to push the conversation forward around summer learning, so that once you get to the fall, you'll be able to have a more thoughtful conversation around what folks have seen. Yes, and Alicia mentioned also that you think about Capitol Hill days and legislative days throughout the after-school hours or maybe during school days, but summer is a great time as well to bring folks out to see what's happening that may be different than what's happening in the after-school and after-school space. And so find a good champion. You can build a team of champions through just bringing them out to see what's happening in the summer space, because it feels and looks different often than what's happening during the school year or during the school day. We can actually even share some resources on things to share with local officials. We have a whole playbook that we can share with you for how state legislators and school boards can get out the information around summer learning. So we'll be sure to add that link to this box. And so, you know, for number 3, we're hearing a lot about this question around licensing in the summertime. And we're hearing that states are often having challenges around this piece, around the difference between how programs are licensed after school, during the school year, then versus the summer. So are other states seeing those challenges? Or we know that sometimes even the licensing agency switches from the school year to the summer program, making it a little more complicated for summer programs. And so we're really curious about exploring this question specifically about what's happening with states around licensing. And so thank you, Sheila, for offering what's happening in Washington around summer meal programs that have worked closely with local farms. Oh, that sounds awesome, actually. Yes, and Patricia mentioned that the Purdue Extension also does gardening and health programs for summer care programs. That's fantastic. Lillian, thank you for your comment about the fact that it may take a long time to complete the process for after-school programs in Georgia. And so what's interesting is that we are seeing that just the simple after-school process may be complicated, and that the summer space often is not a space that's been explored deeply by states. And so as a resource center, NCASE wants to see how we can provide you all with information about what's happening in other states, to connect you with others, maybe create a peer network of folks that are looking at this issue as well and thinking about how they can overcome some of those challenges. So thank you for your comment, Lillian. Yes, and Selena, we are seeing across the country that libraries are offering meals for kids. And so it's a great kind of one-stop shop for parents that may be coming in to pick up some books, or maybe they're coming in for a great activity that's being sponsored in the community, and also picking up a great meal. And so that's a great way to kind of link the two, summer learning connected to meals additionally.
And I'd like to bring people's attention back up to chat box number 2. Patricia has a question. Are there any skill apprenticeship programs that support middle school learning? Anyone have any resources on that? Patricia, we may have to check around a little bit to see what we can find for you. And I think there are a couple of articles in the library or about to be posted in the NCASE library about this, because I think having career exploration opportunities in middle school research is showing to be super important. So having some models of that to share with you is going to be a valuable thing. I don't know of any offhand. I don't know if Selena and Sheila would have some tips. I love Selena's idea of incorporating CQI into the planning of summer programs and doing that assess, plan, and improvement cycle starting in September. Selena, I'm wondering if you can say a little bit more about that. So you're saying once summer is over, then working on this. So can you say a little bit about the timing of that?
Yeah, it's something we offer, and then we know there's a reality of planning for summer. But either, yeah, it's again looking at the quick CASP and really using that as a tool to drive what the quality improvement plan is for programs. But it's completing it after the end of summer. There's with the quick CASP, there's 2 sections. There's one on planning, so you can assess the planning part of your summer program, and then there's the I'm going to blank on it now, but then there's maybe Monica, you can jump in. I don't have it in front of me, but there's the observation part where you're actually observing your summer program in practice. And so the assessment tool can be started. You can start looking at it in September and starting the planning process based on your assessment. And then, again, coming back to the assessment tool in the observation part during summer, so you can continue to assess, plan, and improve throughout, the whole process, but that you're looking at your summer program and your successes and your areas that you need to strengthen, hopefully in January at the latest, so you can start identifying what you need as far as your program and training, tools, resources between January and March, so that come summer you all are ready to implement your summer program. But I know, Monica, you're a little familiar as well, but that's at least what we offer as a timeline, but also knowing the reality is that oftentimes summer planning may not happen until February or March, just given the other priorities with the school year.
Okay. I was going to add that often, yeah, that we will also link summer program quality improvement with the school year quality improvement process. And so yeah, a lot of times programs don't have time to really dive in. During the summer, the staff are working all day long. There's very little downtime. But once summer is over, so end of August, in September, and the staff that are remaining for the school year, it's actually an opportunity to kind of reflect on what worked for the summer, looking at that data, sometimes particularly with the academic pieces of math and literacy scales that are in the summer learning program quality assessment tool. It actually provides useful data to think about how programs might want to structure the school year. And so we'll often do like not necessarily a full planning with data session, but they'll have a meeting with staff to kind of look at the data from the summer, go back and look at their school year program quality data, and then set some goals for the school year. So it might not necessarily be that they're planning what they're going to do for next summer in September, at least fully yet, though often when we think year-round and have a lot more time to develop those partnerships, it can take a year to maybe develop a new partnership with a school or with teachers to think about how the next summer's programming can really be aligned and support what young people need to learn or what skills they need to maintain throughout the year. But that the summer process and the school year process fit very nicely, at least within the youth program quality assessment framework. Go ahead, Monica, if you wanted to.
Sure. No, that's a great point. And again, kind of our catchphrase is summer starts in September. And we know, technically, I guess summer starts in June. I don't know what date that is specifically, but we know that what happens obviously is folks transition from summertime immediately into the school year and after school space. And so to Sheila's point, where you can just maybe take a pause and think about what happened in the summer, maybe think about connecting some of those summer program observations or goals to your school year process so that when you get to the springtime, you're ready with new data and new ideas to think about how to restart what happens in the following summer. So something to consider, and thank you both, Sheila and Selena, for those points. Susan, did you have another point you wanted to make?
No, I'm going to turn it back over to you here in order to share some more resources for the group and to wrap us up. But I just want to, before I do that, take a moment to extend my thanks to Selena and Sheila because I learned a tremendous amount. I think the work that's being done in California and Washington are very exciting, and I hope all of our state participants got a lot out of it. And just so that you know, the chat, what was in those chat boxes will be coming out to you after the session is over at some point. So on to you, Monica.
Great, thanks, Susan. So we have one last poll on NCASE webinars. Your voice matters. Your vote counts, if I can say it right. And so as a follow-up from this conversation, we're really interested as we build out our plans for year 4 and want to be responsive to what is of interest to the field. We'd love to hear from you about what is of interest in terms of TA topics and assistance. So great. We're seeing votes come in already. So the quality improvement and program assessment piece is of interest. That's very interesting. Both Selena and Sheila talked about examples of tools that are out there in the field. Again, in the file pod, there's a copy of the Quick CASP tool. That's a great resource. We also, if you look in the resource library, we also have additional resources about assessment tools. So that seems to be a predominant conversation around quality improvement and program assessment. And after that, everyone is about tied around workforce, health and safety and licensing, systems building, and policy. And I see Annette typing in the chat box, so there may be another area of interest for folks as they think about TA resources they'd like to see or have more support around in the summer. So will there be a certificate of participation for the webinar? Actually, I will have Pre-K Washington follow up with you about that specifically, about that participation, and we can make that available to you, Annette. Happy to do that as well. And so to look at the poll, it looks like 75% of folks want more information on quality improvement and program assessment. I think that really speaks it tells an interesting point around where the field is around this conversation, to talk about quality improvement and program assessment. Certainly infrastructure is needed and important, but to be in a space to talk about quality improvement means that your systems are in a good place or mature enough to talk about the next step around how to improve the quality of what's happening in your state and on a program level as well. And so I think we certainly will think about that as we think about what's happening for year 4 with NCASE. So thank you so much for your vote. Your vote does count. Thank you. So as we wrap up this conversation, I wanted to share some very tangible next steps as a follow-up. So we have 3 specific steps for you to take. And so actually tomorrow is the National Summer Learning Day movement. If you click on that link, we can also maybe put it in the chat box for you. Actually, it's actually there in the chat box up top from Pre-K, but we can also submit it again. To join the movement, to pledge to keep kids learning, to host an event, and to bring national attention to your programs. And so this is kind of similar to the Lights On After School movement that happens in the fall. And so we encourage you just to get on the map, to share what you're doing during the summer. Maybe it's not happening tomorrow, but maybe it's happening over the course of the summer. It also helps us talk about the story of summer nationally. We can say from the East Coast to the West Coast, we're seeing activities, we're seeing kids engaged around this topic. So it won't take long. Click on it, add your program, and get some great resources that may be of help for you during this summer. Additionally, this fall, from November 12th to the 14th, the National Summer Learning Association holds its annual conference, and this year it will be in Kansas City, Missouri. This is a great conference that focuses specifically on summer learning. We also talk about after school as well. We have many partners in that space. But the bulk of the content and conversation is around summer learning. And so you ask, Monica, why are you having that conference in November? Well, kind of similar to our catchphrase around summer starts in September, we want to make sure that before folks kind of change their focus to talk about school year and after school, that they think about how to plan for summer 2019 incredibly. And so we encourage you to take a look at that link and consider coming to that conference. Additionally, we encourage you to sign up for OCC's announcements to stay connected to NCASE and to continue the conversation around high-quality summer learning programs and around access, additionally. So as we're wrapping up, we have some great resources here that are on our website, that are on our resource library. So there's our website, link to our website. We have a great summer learning brief that is about why summer learning matters. It's kind of, summer matters, excuse me. It's kind of the 101 for why summer learning is so important. Additionally, we have a guide that is focused on community indicators of effective summer learning systems. It's a quick reference guide that can be helpful as you think about systems building more broadly. Additionally, we know what's really important in this space, and why we had the folks from Seattle and from California on the call was that you all have actual specific examples of what's happening. It's not just a conversation that's theoretical. It's actually grounded in what's really happening in the field. And so if you take a look at the Building Community Systems for Summer Learning snapshots of state and local efforts, that's a great place to see what's happening around the country and to get really specific examples as well. We have a link here to the references that we talked about here throughout the webinar for you to consider and think about. These are all in our current resource library, so please take a look at those. And before we close out, additionally, we want to make sure that once we press end to the webinar, you'll be receiving a link to complete an evaluation. And so we'd love to hear from you about what was really helpful, what was helpful for you as you think about what's happening in the summer. We tried this new chat pod piece where everyone got to contribute at the same time, and so we'd love to hear from you to see if that worked. but also just to stay in touch with us so we can make sure that we're addressing your TA needs and interests throughout the entire year. Another page of references to take a look at. And with that, there's our contact information. Again, we know this is a busy time for folks in the summer. We appreciate your participation on the call today. Please follow up and complete that evaluation, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you so much. Take care.